going back to forgetting, I'm curious about this, going back to forgetting lyrics, whether you're high or not. Stevie Nicks said after that happening to her once, she decided to use a teleprompter, and all artists seem to be anti-teleprompter.
Yeah. There's a couple that are like totally cool with teleprompters. Some people would even talk to me about doing auto tune. I mean, some people were, I mean, that's not something that you say in public.
Yeah.
And some of these singers were brave enough to be like, yeah, I'll tune a vocal if I have to or whatever. I mean, a lot of revelatory, interesting things came out of these interviews that I never expected. I mean, some of these people would start crying or get really emotional about certain things. It was just so beautiful. I mean, I spoke with John Lydon, who we all know is the king of the punks, and it was one of the most fascinating, sweet, generous, giving interviews in the book. And he was just so vulnerable with me about all these fears that he had and all these things. It was like, John Lydon? I wouldn't expect that, but here he is, just like opening his heart up. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was just nice. It was nice to see the other sides, and
Yeah.
Ozzy too. Ozzy was way more articulate.
Yeah. I mean, you got a guy like Ozzy talking about how he prays before he goes on stage, and here you think of Ozzy as like the bat-biting hellraiser, and like, he's such a sweet, loving, a faithful human being. He's praying to God before he goes on stage. It's just so many cool things like that you find out about your heroes.
So many different props, but also you mentioned using a teleprompter, but one person who's just off the cuff and just relaxed on stage, Jeff Tweedy, who you mentioned, it was like one of the funniest shows you saw, because he's just telling jokes and very relaxed, especially in those solo shows. If
you go see him at Largo or something intimate where it's just him acoustically, I mean, he is hilarious. Jeff Tweedy is truly remarkable as a musician. His approach as an author, songwriter. I mean, he's just one of those guys that's got it all. But yeah, very vulnerable in the interview, really funny. And definitely, I mean, one of the examples I brought up to him was I was watching a documentary once where he was doing one of his solo shows, and somebody screamed out that one of his songs sucked. And it's just such a rude thing for an audience member to do. And when he does those intimate shows like that, sometimes you run into those type of people. And so we were just talking about how you deal with that, how he tries to avoid that. It's just a very fragile, fine line you're always walking as sort of the front man. And I think he handles it really well, because he puts himself in situations where he's incredibly vulnerable, and it's a sensitive place to be. And so if somebody's going to yell at you on stage or cause a ruckus and make the show about them, it's not a great feeling.
Yeah, I still think, Screaming Judas. That was Did you try and get Dylan?
Yeah, I did. I tried. I mean, let's put it this way. Anybody you don't see in the book, I tried to get.
I get
it. I mean, if you guys named me your 3 favorite singers that aren't in the book, chances are I tried to reach out.
Nice.
Bono
was the only person who wrote me a rejection letter personally. He wrote me the most lovely, sweet rejection letter. Class. And the only reason he couldn't do it, which is what my computer is sitting on right now, he was about to release his autobiography. And so, he just couldn't do it. His publisher wouldn't let him do another book. And I get it. He had his book coming out. So maybe if there's a second edition of this, or we do like a revised edition, I might be able to snag some of the people that couldn't do it the first time. But Bono would be high up there on the list for a lot of reasons.
We've heard he has FOMO. So so once he sees this book, he's like, he's probably cursed himself already. Like, why get fuck him?
Totally.
I heard he wanted to cancel some shows over it. He's furious right now. He's kicking himself.
Yeah, this is horrible.
Yeah. I'm waiting for an apology letter in calligraphy. And then we'll talk, Bono.
Maybe he'll just ask you, will you please,
Yeah,
will you please write
yeah.
a whole other book so I can participate?
That's right. That's right.
Did you frame it? Do you have a framed
Rejection letter.
rejection letter?
It's a good idea, but I haven't done it yet. I'm gonna hold off on doing that because I really do want to interview him. It sounds cocky, but you mentioned Bob Dylan, you mentioned Bono. I really feel like, and you guys have read a lot of these interviews now. I don't know if you've read the whole book, but it's a big book to read. But I honestly feel like the questions that I've asked them, or I would be asking them, they've never been asked before. And their answers would be incredible to hear, and I just would love that opportunity. So, we'll see what happens, but it's doing good right now.